Hey, I'd like to welcome everyone to a special Friday edition of the Comedy Factory Comedy Chat. I've got a great guest on today. I'm excited about the show. Uh, this gentleman is the executive director of the Wheelchair Strong Foundation, due in part to his twin boys, Andrew and Troy, who have Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. He's a modern day licensed private detective, a media personality, author, martial artist, so I'm not going to mess with him. Produces fundraisers. He's a husband, and most importantly, proud father of four. I watched the documentary he has on YouTube, A Father's Fight, and he also has out now. I was in one earlier. He has out now Comedy for a Cause 5. I know Edward Gene's in it, Chris Farley, Christine Early, and others. So we got a lot to talk about here in this hour. I'd like to introduce and welcome Mark Chauppetta. How you doing, Mark?
Oh, thanks for having me, John. It's always a pleasure. I enjoy your podcast, and it's great to be here on Friday.
Appreciate having you on, man. You got a lot of stuff going on, Mark. I mean, I watched videos on you. I read up on your site, and I guess we'll start when you were young. You went out to California. You wanted to be the next Tom Cruise, and you went out there for about 3 years. And what was that all about? You were trying to get into acting, or?
Yeah, no, I was always kind of a lost child, I guess you could say. Always trying to find myself, and wasn't a great student in high school, and went to community college right after high school. Took up criminal justice because I thought that might be of interest to me. And then, I think a year and a half into college, I got a little bored there, and I got an opportunity to go into corrections or take the exam. And I got into Corrections Academy. I think I got into Corrections Academy. I think it's behind me, actually. I graduated Corrections Academy in 1989. My certificate's on the wall.
Wow.
Worked for the Massachusetts Department of Corrections for about, I think, 3 years or so. And then midstream, I got the bug to go out to Hollywood to be an actor. I'm going to Massasoit. I'm working as a correction officer. I'm not even legal to drink yet at this point. Working with some of the most hardened criminals out there. I mean, Christ. I mean, I'll be 52 in a month, and I like to think I'm a young looking 52. Back then, when I was like 18, 19, I looked like I just came out of the damn womb. So
I saw some pictures of you. Yeah, you look young.
And I'll get back to it, but I'll tell you, and you get this as a correction officer, John, is that the one thing that has carried me through life, and then later in life, being a specialist in criminal defense, which we can get into my business later, was I learned with inmates, you have to be fair but firm. And I always took that with me. So I think at a young age, I didn't take shit from anyone. I think that was the infancy of me not taking any crap from anyone and giving an inmate the opportunity to, get one over on me or.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you I was a correctional officer.
I know. I knew that.
Yeah,
we spoke about that back when you did my comedy show years ago. Because I checked, I did a background on you and I read your bio. But so when I was in the DOC, I got bored and took the opportunity to pack my bags and go out to Hollywood to try to be the next Tom Cruise. Ironically, later I ended up meeting him professionally in my business practice.
What was that like? What was that like meeting Tom Cruise? He's one of my favorite actors.
He's a cool guy, but he's a weird guy. Again, there's so much. Wear so many hats in life and so many avenues to go down with me. But I spent 10 years as maybe 8 years or so as an investigator for the Church of Scientology. So I traveled the whole world as one of their PIs. I'm not one of them, but I did a lot of work for them back in the 2000 to later 2000s. I was doing work for them, and I met Tom out at the Celebrity Center. When I was out there.
Did you meet anybody? I know John Travolta's in the Church of Scientology.
I've done John's security and pretty friendly, which you probably saw in my film, A Father's Fight, with Pat Renner, who's a Scientologist. He's the kid from the Sandlot baseball movies.
Yeah.
He's got a cameo in my film. So I packed my bags, went out to Cali, and my father, just a little short stocky Italian guy is like,
Yeah, nuts.
what the hell's wrong with you? He used a RUA blank, and it's a terminology you can't use anymore, but it's something that they used to, I think, in London to call a cigarette. You know what that is?
Yeah.
No, you can Google it. Whatever they call a cigarette in Great Britain, that's what my father said. Are you a blank? Because I was packing my bags, going, we can use, for lack of better terms, a Mary or whatever you want to call it. This is an old Italian guy back in the early 1990s. I mean, there was no political correctness, and I'm trying to walk that fine line of not getting you in trouble and flagged. So I said, no, pops, I'm not. I just got some creative juices that I need to go out there. And then and I was adopted along with my sister, so I don't know if he was like scratching his head and second guessing and saying, we got a defected child here or something. He's got a state job working for the state of Massachusetts, and health insurance.
Gonna leave that.
He's packing his bags and going out to Hollywood to try to be an actor. What the heck?
He must have thought you were nuts, man.
Oh my God, he thought I was crazy. I mean, that mentality is like, you got a job and it's all about the benefits.
Yeah.
It's not about being happy in life or being fulfilled, but he was a grocery store manager.
Yeah. I went through the same thing with my son when he was 22. He got out of college, an accounting degree. If he got to get a job, he said, "No, I want to travel the world and work for my computer." And now he's written 4 books, and he's
successful.
He's done really, really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he was nuts, like your father thought you were nuts. I thought he was insane, and he's turned out to be a success. So.
I follow him on social media, and I follow you, so I see the posts you do, and proud mom and pops there, I can see.
Yeah.
I mean, so when I was out in Hollywood, I had taken a leave of absence from the Department of Corrections, and when I was out there, and I took a job as a PI. I just needed work out there, so I was working on Santa Monica Boulevard, and I was selling wheatgrass and veggie burgers, and it just wasn't working out for me. So, so having a little corrections background and having some schooling in law enforcement, I looked through the help wanteds, and there was someone looking to hire a freelance private investigator. So that's where I actually got my start, was out in Los Angeles. There was a gentleman out there, Doug Florence. He actually wrote the foreword in my book. And he gave me the opportunity, and then I fell in love with it. And then I gave up the acting, packed my bags, came back home, resigned from the Department of Corrections because I had taken like a leave of absence, resigned from the DOC, and then the rest is history. I've been a PI for 30 years, just about.
And a successful one you've done from what I've seen. What kind of cases is it? Mostly husband or wife cheating scandals, or is it a lot of other stuff involved?
No, I mean, there is some of that. Everything just kind of goes in stages, John. When I first broke into the business, I trained as a freelancer, so kind of like an electrician or a plumber would do. And I worked for like 6 different agencies, and I learned all different areas of the business. I learned how to do surveillance and how to investigate crimes and how to do research and things of that nature. So I worked for all these local agencies while I accumulated enough hours to get my ticket. So we're licensed through the Mass Department of State Police. So I applied through the Department of State Police, the early 90s, was able to get my license. So I pretty much was schooled in everything. And if I didn't know how to do it, it's that old saying. I don't think kids nowadays even know how to do this shit. It's fake it till you make it. Use your personality. And if someone calls me like, "Hey, I need something done," I'm saying in the back of my head, "Oh, dang, I don't know how to do that." Like, I'd make it sound like I had someone in my office, I had a meeting going on, and then I'd call one of my colleagues and get the advice and move on and do it that way. But cheating was popular back in the day. Cheating cases nowadays aren't there aren't as many, just because of how much society's changed, the internet, people able to figure this stuff out on their own. My expertise is criminal defense. I've been one of the top leading criminal defense investigators here in Massachusetts
Wow.
for a few decades. So
It's awesome. It's awesome, Mark.
yeah, it's fun. And here in Massachusetts, we have something called the Public Defender's Office. So if someone's arrested, charged with a crime, and they're indigent, meaning they don't have funds, they get appointed counsel, and then they get appointed investigator. So I do a lot of appellate work as well. So a lot of my appellate work are people that have already been tried and convicted, helping them get new trials or put motions in for new trials, looking for new exculpatory evidence, whatever the case may be. Murder on the Cape's probably my most famous case. I've still been working on been on that for about 5 years. That's the Chris McCowan case, the fashion writer from New York that was killed down Truro.
Yeah.
Back in the early 2000s.
I remember that. Yeah.
So Chris is my client. I'm part of the dream team, they call it, legal dream team, and just chasing leads on that. Fox Nations did a piece on it. I'll be appearing on that sometime in the spring, talking about the case.
Cool.
You know, you name it, I do it. Scientology for many years. I wrote a book on cheating. And you want to hire me? If you lost your cat, I'll find your damn cat.
So you're a PI of all trades. Whatever case comes, you take it. That's it. You go with
Jack of all dicks, as in Dick Tracy, right? That's what they say. So cool. It's been fun. It's been a rewarding career for me. I think in the beginning days when I first started becoming more overt as opposed to covert, it took a lot of heat from a lot of my colleagues, because we're supposed to be top secret, and I'm out there in the media, so I mean maybe we can segue some of that into why I'm out in the media.
To explain why you're out in the media. You got your executive director of the Wheelchair Strong Foundation. I got to meet you through Johnny Peasy, my great friend, and you got me in your show, and I getting to know you a little bit here and there, and you seem like a good guy, and you got a lot going on. Tell us about being the executive director of the Wheelchair Strong Foundation, and your sons Andrew and Troy, and everything that happened.
Yeah, back. I've always raised money. I have twin sons, Troy and Andrew. They're 25 now. They were born with Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, which is a rare and terminal form of MD. But they're amazing kids. They're thriving. They live independently. They own their own graphics and web design business. They're defying the odds of the disease they have. The disease is like a muscle wasting disease. I guess just in a nutshell, Clip Notes version, they lack a protein in their body. Their muscles atrophy. Most Duchenne kids, all Duchenne kids, start off walking and then they end up in wheelchairs by the time they're 10, 12 years old. And then eventually it affects their upper extremities where they can't feed themselves. They can't toilet themselves. They can't do certain things. They wanted to live independently a year or two ago. So I helped make that happen for them. Now they live in an apartment complex with staff that helps care for them. And, it's after they were diagnosed at an early age, it was a pretty depressing time of my life. I know you've had some personal things in your life with family that you love, and it's something that's tough to wrap your head around, So once I got out of the doldrums and stopped thinking about myself, I started thinking about them and started raising money for muscular dystrophy and advocacy. And the things that I guess I do best is I like entertaining. So I kind of combine the two. So our organization is based on entertainment, laughter, not less opposed to tugging on the heartstrings and saying all these things about my kids, the horrible things about my kids. We advocate about the great things about not only my kids, but all the brave young men that have this disease. So yeah, years ago, man, I was talking to a buddy of mine, Steve Sharippa from Blue Bloods, Sopranos
Oh
fame,
yeah.
Bobby
Yep.
Bacala.
Yeah.
And Steve and I were talking, and Steve's been good to me over the years. And I said, "Hey, Steve, I want to do a comedy show. What can you do to help me out?" Well, Steve used to be the booker way back when, before he became famous. He was the booker at the Riv out in Vegas. So that was his gig back in his 20s, I think, in early 30s, before he got discovered, and eventually ended up getting a script for this this HBO startup show called The Sopranos. Little did he know he was falling into the greatest television show in the history of modern TV. So he said, "Hey, let me make some calls." He reached out to Lenny Clark, and no, actually, I reached out to Mike. Reached out to Mike Clark because Lenny was booked the time that I wanted to do my first show, and then Mike, and his graciousness, helped get me Johnny Peasy and Ken Rogerson. Christine Hurley was a unknown really at that time. This is back my first show, which was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And she killed it. I mean, Ken Rogerson was the headliner.
Christine, they're all great. Johnny, Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, and then Danny Miller. Danny Miller was on the show. Danny Miller,
a good friend of mine. Yeah, great kid. Yeah.
And it was fun. We did our first show, and then I started doing them every year. And you were, I don't know which one you were on. You might have been on.
I was in 2000. I want to say 2017, because a lot of things happened for me that year.
Right.
And I wound up working that whole weekend with Lenny Clark. One of them was your show, Comedy for Cause, and then I did a couple other shows with Lenny. So it was a great weekend. It was the first time I met him, and I worked the whole weekend with him. It was really cool. Great guy.
Great
guy, Lenny Clark.
Yeah, Lenny's been great, and we've done it every year. And I've brought in some good people. You were on the show with Jimmy Walker. You said, right?
Jimmy JJ Walker.
Yeah.
She Bangs, William Hung.
Oh, my wife still gives me crap to this day for that, because like she doesn't understand my brain. She's like, why would you bring in William Hung for a comedy show? I'm like, well,
I enjoyed seeing him.
I'm like, well, I mean, I kind of wanted to bring him in kind of as a joke. And I spoke to him about it, and he gets that. He knows that's his kind of calling in life, although he thinks he can sing. Yeah. So I brought him in to sing the song. And, it's funny because I brought a lot of celebrities in, and I usually take him to breakfast or whatever, and nobody recognizes anyone but William Hung. And walking down the streets of Plymouth, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, William Hung! He's the guy from American Idol." And and on that particular night, his act was kind of like, I had all these visions. I wanted to bring in dancers with him and all this stuff, but just nothing materialized. So we threw him on the stage, and I don't know if the crowd was responding. And you were probably in the back room schmoozing.
I watched it.
Did you watch it?
I watched it. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Then Johnny came. Then Johnny Peasy saved the day, because Johnny came out from the. Johnny saw that he was kind of flopping. The crowd wasn't really reacting. So then Johnny came from behind him. Remember, he was making all these kind of like faces and dancing.
I remember.
And then the crowd was erupting, and William Hung had no clue. So it was comedy.
I enjoyed it. I'm glad you got him. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was comedy magic, and it was really cool. And JJ was cool, aside from the fact that he wouldn't say dynamite.
I wouldn't say it. Yeah.
He goes like, "I'll say fabulous the same way." I'm like, well, that's not what made Good Times a hit show.
Why wouldn't he say? I've read about that too. Why won't he say dynamite? I don't get that.
I don't know. And my comedy booker is a good dude. His name is Roger Paul.
Yeah.
Out of New York, and he reps all these. He's the agent for all these comics for the most part, and it's just like, it is what it is. I think he's just was a little bit bitter, and
yeah.
And I know, and Steve Sharippa, he looks out for me, and I know Steve and JJ, or what do you want to call have had some issues over the years. So it's the next day, Shrip is texting me. He's like, "Call me." He's like, "I want how did Walker make out?" Yeah. And the funny thing with Shripper is he's an actor, but when you talk to him, you think he's in the mob. It's like art imitating life, and it's like that's
Yeah.
I'm like, he was fine, Steve. Don't worry about it. He actually went off well. He was hilarious. He was great.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why I won't say it. Maybe all those years of being typecast.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know. But his act was great, and and then the next year I booked what's his name? The guy from Police Academy.
Oh, Michael Winslow.
Michael Winslow.
I've seen him. He was pretty good when I saw him at the Comedy Connection here in Rhode Island when he came.
Major flop at my show.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Really?
he was a great guy, but he wanted to do all the songs and everything and sing to he does this whole little act. In the technology, we just couldn't get the audio to match up, so it was just like it was a night. It was a bleep show that night. He was great.
Oh.
I wish he would have just abandoned some of the abandoned his the musical part of his set and gone straight comedy, because he's a brilliant comic as well. But again, it is what like I think big sometimes with my plans when it comes to my charity, and I don't know if people get it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like I grew up in this small town of Whitman, and this new like fancy coffee shop came in with all this crazy fancy coffee and all these fancy little sandwiches. And I was talking to a buddy of mine that says, "You know what? I don't think this town's ready for it." Well, I don't know if this area is ready for the shit that goes on between my ears when it comes to running events.
Yeah.
But hey, you got to try, right, John?
Yeah. Yeah. You got to try. And how many comedy shows have you done? I see now the last one that came out was Comedy for a Cause 5, but did you do more before that? And then you started the Comedy for a Cause, or?
Yeah, I did Rock and Comedy was my first show. That's the one Shrippa hosted. He came in from New York and hosted it. Then I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 5 was, again, part of my vision of we can't have any live shows. So I decided to make it into a special. It's on our YouTube page. You can just put my name in YouTube and you'll find it. So what I did was I reached out to the comics. They did a personalized message, and then they gave me licensing to a set, for one of their sets. The only one on my show that actually did an actual set was Steve Heitner from Friends. He actually went into his wine cellar and did like a 25-minute set in his wine cellar. That, I mean, with no fans, nothing. I mean, that's pretty hard, but
Oh, yeah.
but people like him. He's Kenny Banya from Friends.
Yeah.
Christine gave me her set, and I think it was from Giggles. And so
Yeah, she's hilarious.
I edited some of it out because some of the content was even too was too tough for my audience. But I love Christine. She's the best.
Her husband, Jamie, great guy. Christine,
Great.
yeah, great
Great,
people.
great family. I had some celebrities donate some time in it. Bruce Buffett from the UFC did the intro. Chuck Liddell, UFC fighting champion, friend, he did a little cameo. Strip is in it. Ed Regine, you mentioned. Ed the Machine Regine.
Yeah, I worked with Ed when I started in the early 90s. I did a bachelor party with him once, and I booked him to headline one of my shows, and then he went out to California or whatever, and he's done quite well.
I met Ed in, so when I got back from Hollywood in the early 90s to be a PI, I wanted to further my acting a little bit. So I joined a comedy troupe in Boston called the Harrison Project. I don't even think it's there anymore. It was in the south end of Boston. It's all fancy condos now. And I met Ed, and he was in my class. And so we took acting classes together back in the early 90s. And he was always very generous then. We became friends on, connected with him on Facebook or whatever. Hey, you remember me? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then he did a couple of his, he did a couple of his little characters he does. I don't have a set of his in this. Also I meant to mention Dave Russo is also in it as well. So
Yeah, Dave Russo. Yeah.
Dave's just a sweetheart of a guy, very generous. So yeah, man, I love comedy. It's something that I admire that you guys do. Like I don't know how you. I mean, it's tough. Like Peasy had me host one night at Lots of Laughs.
Yeah.
Up in Andover, and
great room.
I just wanted to punch people in the face for not liking my jokes, you know. Isn't that Russo's line? I'll punch you in the face.
It can be frustrating. I'm sorry.
You know, and like, I mean, I'm telling I wasn't telling jokes, but I'm telling stories. You know, it's tough. Like when I'm out with friends, my wife's like, "All right, we're meeting a couple out tonight. I'm going to leave it up to you. I know you do all the talking all the time, as you tell in this podcast. You're the one that's going to get everyone laughing." And I'm like, all right, I'm great at that. But up on a stage, I don't know how you do it.
It's very hard to transition. Like people you be really, oh, you're a funny guy. But then when you get on stage to get that and transition it over to the stage, some people can do it and some can't, you know. It's just crazy, you know.
Yeah. And a lot of my material, if I was going to be a comic, would be about my personal life and, you know, wife jokes and wife comments. And, you know, I got to go home and crawl into bed with her. So, you know, I don't. Yeah. So there's certain shit that you can't really say. You know, you should probably leave, you know, I mean,
leave it out.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Is it worth getting a good laugh, or is it worth sleeping in the spare bedroom?
Yeah, yeah. That's crazy.
You know, so you know, my wife's a good sport. She helps me with all. She's a nurse, so she helps me with all the events. And you know, it's funny when we were filming. When you did my show, we were filming my movie, A Father's Fight, and I believe Terry, your wife, was in the back room. Watching us shoot some of the scenes. And came up to me afterwards and told me how touched she was and all that stuff. And it was nice. It was a nice moment. She's a sweet lady.
Yeah.
You know, so, and you can watch that on my YouTube page, A Father's Fight.
Yeah, I watched that. I enjoyed. You got a lot of drive, Mark. You got a lot of drive. You know?
Well, I'll be 52 in a month, so it's, you know, I'm losing some of my faculties, but it's, you know, I think my sons who have this brutal disease see the strength and the energy in me and my craziness, and I think it helps give them, you know, the strength to push through on a bad day. And, you know, and I think, you know, I think that's important. I think laughing is important. I think positive. And don't get me wrong, everyone needs to have their dark moments. That's important as well. But I think, you know, my sons in particular, all my kids, see how hard I work. I'm hoping that's, you know, instilled in them, you know. And I got a young one who's 15, so I'm trying to. It's a little, he's amazing, but you know, the younger generation's a little bit different.
Oh, it's a lot different. Yeah.
Are you kidding me? You know?
Yeah. And you got a daughter. How old's your daughter?
My daughter's 27, and I married her off a prison guard, Walpole prison guard.
Yeah.
They got married in October, so she's a good kid. You know, she works for Dunkin' Donuts corporate, and he works at Walpole. But I think he's taking the state police exam. So they're good. They're good kids, you know. And you know, my wife calls me Walt Kowalski. You know what that? You know who he is?
I heard of it. Who is he?
You ever see Gran Torino with Clint Eastwood?
Oh yeah.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
You know,
that was a great movie.
You know, so my wife references that name to me often. You know, it's I really wasn't blessed with the PC voice, but I've learned to filter it a little bit better, given the sensitivity of the society nowadays.
It's getting worse and worse.
How do you handle that? Let me ask you. Like I'm flipping there now. I'm interviewing you. But how do you handle that as a comic? Do you have to adjust your routine because you know, or do you say, you know what? don't buy the damn ticket and come to the show if you're not gonna plan on getting
Well,
shit on.
I mean, I haven't been on stage since March 15th. Before that, I would go right up to the line, but not cross it. Like I knew when to get to a certain point and I could bust somebody up or say something, but I knew that's it. I couldn't go past that line. I got good at that, knowing where, okay, that's enough. I can't. And I didn't, when I started comedy in the early 90s, I had political humor in my act.
Right.
It was okay to bust up Bill Clinton with Monica Lewinsky. It was all accepted.
Of course it
Now
was.
I feel the country kind of got divided. They were either well, I don't get into politics on here, but they were either for Trump or against them.
Right.
So the last thing I want to do is go up in my act and say I'm for Trump or I'm for this guy, and then you create a political division in a crowd or with your act, and then half the people might not like you. So I avoid politics in my act. Some guys don't, but I find for me, I stay away from it. You know, I don't touch it because it gets a little too heated sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it's
The
a
last
shame.
thing I want to do, Mark, is get everybody heated. I'm trying to make them laugh. I don't need to start any arguments over politics, you know.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a shame because we should be able to, I mean, this is America, you know,
Right.
it's democracy. We should be able to have a side and voice your opinion about a side without, you know, being hated or you being hated in a routine. I was listening to a local radio show this morning, and they do a segment called The Dumbest of the Day, and they had some, I don't know if he was in some sort of a pastor or something down south, and he was making a comment about, I don't know if it was someone in the crowd during the sermon, but he said something along the lines, I thought it was a pretty funny line, that you used to have the body of a trophy, but now you have the body of a Stanley Cup. I chuckle. I thought that was funny, but apparently it's a fat joke, and you can't say that nowadays, and he got me fired.
See, the one thing I do,
Some people like the body of a Stanley Cup, right? Isn't that kind of
right.
like,
There's nothing wrong with that. I would
right?
do. I'm a big guy, so what I would do is pick on my own weight and myself, and then there'd be a big guy in the audience. Once I picked on me, kind of gives you a license to pick on that guy, and he's all right with it. But if I just went to him, and started saying, "Hey, you're a heavy guy," and then it wouldn't probably go as good. But once I picked
But
me,
being a heavy at the time, yeah, you've lost a lot of weight, but being a heavy guy, I guess you're allowed to do it.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's
If I
like,
was a skinny guy and I
yeah,
start picking on fat people in the audience,
right.
it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. I don't think. You know.
One of my buddies here in the city of Brockton owns a local restaurant, and when he was before the pandemic, when he was opening, he wanted to put a menu item on there. He wanted my sons to create a burger. It's the A&T burger, Andrew and Troy burger. It's funny, everyone says Andrew and Troy because that's the way it goes in the alphabet. A becomes 4T. I always say Troy and Andrew because Troy was born first. For some reason, that's why I always say Troy and Andrew. But he's like, well, so they invented this burger that's on the menu, and he's like, well, what do you want to name it? I go, well, let's call it the T&A burger. You know, so so my buddy's partner, who's a female, is like, I don't know if that's a smart idea for a burger. You know, it's T&A burger. What people are going to think it stand? You know what the people are going to think it stand for, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, how about we call it the A&T burger instead? I'm like, what's the difference? Some people like the T better than the A, and some people like the A better than the T. Just depends on what your preference in a woman is, or
Yeah.
So it's the A&T burger. So
the A&T burger. And where can you get this burger?
It's called Brack's Tap and Grill. It's in Brockton.
Cool.
My buddy Frank owns it. He's been a big supporter of the charity.
Yeah.
And we got a big picture of the charity on the wall and the burger on the menu. He gives us $1 for every burger. I never had it. It's gross. To me, it's gross. It's like a burger patty with like aioli sauce, and then it's got bacon, cheese, fried pickles, and buffalo mozzarella sticks on it. Like, I mean, it's like
it's different.
It's kind of like an appetizer. I call it an appetizer inside of a meal. So you don't even need to, you can just get it and just take the mozzarella sticks and the fried pickles off it, eat that as your appetizer, then dig into the burger. But
It's a big burger, man.
I'm semi-health conscious. So, every time my wife and I go to a restaurant, my wife's a twig, but she eats like crap. She's just blessed that way. So
Yeah.
she always gets a burger and fries, and I get a salad, and the waitress or waiter always comes out, and they stereotypically hand her the salad and me the burger. I'm like, oh, excuse me, don't I look like someone that might want a salad? I go switch it around there.
And God bless your wife for being a nurse. She was on the front lines of this COVID, all the nurses,
Yeah, she's a director of nursing at a rehab nursing home. So
Yeah.
they were hit hard. So she's the infectious disease nurse, and so
Wow.
she's been pulling extra duty.
Yeah, it's been tough. God bless her.
Vaccinated. Did you see my post last week about my vaccination?
I don't think I saw it. What happened?
Yeah, because I got my second shot last week.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I got the first one so far. Waiting for the second
What
one.
one did you get?
Moderna.
That's what I got. So I qualified because I'm also caretaker for my sons.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, I qualified before them. I was able to get them their first shot at Foxborough Stadium because I said they smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Aside, the wheelchair wasn't enough. Like, oh, we can't do it. That's all I want. Well, they smoke. I whipped out a pack of cigarettes. No. So I got my second shot, Moderna.
Yeah.
And got it last Thursday at like 4. I woke up the next morning, said to my wife, she said, how you feeling? I said, because the first shot I only got like that arm, like you got punched in the arm. Second shot, I woke up, I'm like, I think I'm okay. I make it to my office by like 6:30 in the morning. By like 7:30, I could barely crawl out of here. I'm like 911. It just hit me. Like the aches, the confusion, like just like I didn't have like a slight headache. I didn't have a fever or anything. And I made it home, back to where I live, like 40 minutes away. Took some Advil, crawled into bed, and sweated it out like you would the flu. And then 4 hours later, I woke up and I'm like, I feel normal. But I said to my wife, I go, I'm gonna climb up on the roof and jump and see if I can jump to the next roof because I feel like Peter Parker, like I got bit by a spider. Like am I an Avenger now or something? Because like there was something going on in my body. I was like,
man.
I was looking for webs coming out of my arms. But
crazy.
and then it kind of went away. Then it came back, and it took like almost 48 hours to feel normal again. And my wife's like, stop complaining. I was fine when I got my second shot. So I think it affects people different.
Yeah, I heard the second shot. Some people, it's like a flu for a day or two. So I'm not looking forward to it, but I got to get it,
Yeah, my twins go in for their second shot next week. So, for them, I'm a little concerned because, they're in wheelchairs. They're somewhat more incapacitated, need to be cared for. But they just want to get it and they want to go out and eat at a restaurant. They want to go to Brax and have their burger. Like they haven't. And aside from coming to my house for dinner or their mom's house, they haven't been able to do anything. And, it's been rough, as far as, but I mean, I've, resumed life, I work, I have to work, and the courts have only semi-closed. We're closed for a little while, but, there's still crime out there and the legal process still has to happen. So I've been, I've been busy, luckily. But, I don't know, people out there that want to look me up, an interesting factoid. My twins also have gotten a lot of press. If you're from the Massey area, you've probably seen it last year. My twins are two of the best wheelchair soccer players in the world.
Wow.
And they play for Team USA.
Wow. I saw them play in the video.
Movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had just made Team USA. I took them out to Minnesota October of 19. So, and they had gotten notification on hundreds and hundreds of disabled wheelchair athletes that not only won, they both made USA team, and were scheduled to compete in the World Games in Australia in October of 2021. But so we started the practices are all over the United States. Every 3 months, I have to transport them to a different USA training facility, them in their wheelchairs, and then their sport wheelchairs that are $10,000 $10,000 sport wheelchairs that we had to buy for training. And then we had just gotten back from Tampa from USA training, and then the pandemic hit, and the whole season, everything was canceled for the year. So now we finally are resuming Team USA training next month. In April, we're going to be in Indiana. We're gonna drive to Indiana. Rented a big van, and we're going to drive out to Indiana, and they're back to practicing. And 2022, they'll be playing in Australia in the World Games in wheelchair soccer.
Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, they have more athletic ability in their pinky than I have in my whole damn body, John.
Yeah. I was watching them play in the movie. They could tell how great they are,
Yeah, it's cool, and representing the U.S. It's a proud feeling. We're getting a lot of news coverage at the time, and then it goes, the world is shut down for all of us.
Yeah, it'll come back. It's slowly starting to come back.
It seems it. My youngest son just got notification here in Massachusetts that April 5th they go back full time. He's a freshman in high school.
Yeah,
so they're going back full time for that. So that's good, because they need to get back.
Oh yeah. The kids. It definitely hurt the kids being out of school all this time.
He'll be on remote class, John, and he'll 6 hours. Like, I mean, you remember what it was like when you worked in the Department of Corrections? I mean, sitting down for you need to stimulate yourself and get up and move. Sitting there at a computer for 6 hours taking classes, it's tough, and once school would end, I'll go home and just get him up and get him out and take him to the gym or do something to get the cobwebs out of his head, because when you're going to school, you're going from classroom to classroom, you're interacting with your friends,
It's a lot more. Going to school can be, fun. You know what I mean? You're with your friends and you're doing things. You got gym. You're playing sports. Different things.
Yeah, he missed one of his. He overslept one day. He wasn't with me that day. It wouldn't have happened. It was at his mother's house. He overslept one day and missed gym class, and I'm like, you got to make that up. So I had to take him to the gym, and he had to run on the treadmill with a certain app and then email it. I'm like,
that's crazy, right?
Right? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, why don't we go to the track right now, and I'll record you do something. And he's like, Dad, it's January. It's snowing out. I'm like, I don't give a crap.
It's crazy.
Times are just, they're just different now. I don't know. What else you want to ask me? Anything?
You're a martial artist. What do you?
Yeah.
You're a black belt, Mark, or what do you got going with that?
I am a jiu-jitsu practitioner. I wish I was a black belt. I've been wrestling for a little over 40 years.
Wow.
And I used to coach youth wrestling. So my pedigree is wrestling. That's something that I enjoy. My wife doesn't get it. She doesn't understand that, I participate in a sport that has terminology like high crotch and mount and certain promiscuous named holds, and I'm rolling around with sweaty people. But yeah, so my film that you alluded to was called A Father's Fight. People can get it on my YouTube page. Maybe when you throw this up, you can put my YouTube link on there. It's about me at turning 50. So that was 2 years ago. I'm turning 52, getting back in the cage to fight for my kids and my cause. So many years ago, having a pedigree in wrestling, I used to dabble in cage fighting. So my first fight was down in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. I fought in a bare knuckle in a warehouse in like 1999.
Wow.
And so I remember getting transported to what's the hospital there on
Rhode Island Hospital.
yeah, kind of near Atwell's Ave, isn't it? Kind of up in that area.
Yeah, Rhode Island Hospital probably going to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, I got transported there after my opponent and I took an ambulance ride together to.
Could have been Roger Williams Hospital.
Yeah, might have been. So that was one of my first. It was called Valet Tudo back then. It was something I enjoyed doing. And once when I was doing a local radio show, I used to have a local radio show here in Brockton on AM radio. I had a fighter and a promoter, and I had been retired at that point from doing anything like that. And I think I was 35 at the time. So a long time ago, he offered like $5,000 to give me $5,000 for my charity if I would get into the cage again and fight. And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. So, and I said it on the air, and I was kind of joking. And then we went to commercial break, and he's like, so when we doing it? I'm like, I was kind of kidding, Mike. And he's like, well, you memorialized it on the air. You got to do it now. People are listening. So I ended up fighting multiple times. I would fight once a year to raise money for the twins.
Yeah.
And then I decided to make it into a film called The Father's Fight. And I'll tell you a funny story, which you saw in the film. So during the filming of a Father's Fight, this is like 3 or 4 years ago, I got a call from the producers of a TV show called 60 Days In, the undercover prison show. So I get a call from the producers of 60 Days In, and they're like, Mark, we saw you online. We like your personality. We were looking you interested in going undercover and coming on the TV show? And I'm like, absolutely not. I got too many responsibilities here. And I, still want to do it. And they're like, all right, well, we're only going to use you for like 40 days. It's called 60 Days In because the production of the show already started, and we'll pay you $30,000.
Not bad.
I'm like, all right. So I made the mistake of agreeing, signing the contracts, but it came at a price of having to figure out all my caseload that I had going on. I had to move some court case, some trials that I had. I had to call lawyers up and say, look, I'm going to be in jail. Can you tell the judge that, in May 2nd, I'm going to be in prison for about 40 days, so I can't testify in this case.
Oh, man.
So I got all my affairs in order. And at the same time, my twins were going through a clinical trial study, which I facilitate. I drive them, and they're like, do it, Dad, do it, because they're selfless and they want me to do things for myself. But I was really only doing it to bring attention to the cause. Well, that was my thought process. All right, if I go undercover, maybe I'll get a little fame, and that fame will bring more attention to Duchenne's. And so I halted production of my documentary. I had a crew paid for. They came in here. Hollywood came to Brockton, Mass, where my office is. We did like a week of B-roll interviews of my whole family, all that stuff, all the prep work. You watch reality shows and like American Idol and Christine Hurley, who can tell you some stories, about her debacle on America's Got Talent and all that background shit that they put you through. Like they just they just want to get all the negative out of your life because that's what gets viewers interested and they get people crying and all that stuff. So I did all that and I flew out to Arizona. I'm getting ready to go into, it's airing right now on Netflix, but I'm not on it. I'll tell you what. So, I go out to Arizona, Pinellas County, and I spent another week there. So it's like 2 weeks of craziness before I even go undercover. Put me up for about a week doing all these interviews, all this B-roll, asking me all these questions and tugging on my heart, trying to get me to, bawl my eyes out because they want this for the, for the show. And are you afraid to go to prison? I'm like, look, I'm an ex-prison guard. I'm a defense investigator for 30, close to 30 years. I'm a retired cage fighter. I'm not afraid of anything. A little guy, but I'll at least fight you until I get knocked out. yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, well, you ever watch the movie Creed? They're like, yeah. I go, well, there's a great scene in that movie Creed where Rocky's standing next to Creed, who's getting ready for his fight in the first movie, and he's shadowboxing in the mirror. And he's like, take a look at yourself. Creed's like, why? He goes, that's always going to be your toughest opponent in life. It's you. It's your reflection. It's, that's your hardest opponent. It's yourself. It's not anyone else. It's dealing with your own inner demons and all that. So so it's D-Day. It's like I'm going on death row. Like, what do you want for your final dinner before you go under? And I'm like, well, what's around here in Arizona? They're like an In-N-Out burger. I go, all right, I heard great things about it. So I order In-N-Out burger and I order it without mayonnaise. And the things, I get back to my hotel room and it's drowning in mayonnaise. So I chuck that. Well, that's a good start to me going under, Then they're like, all right, 0300, we're meeting you at your hotel room. You better be in the lobby at 3 a.m. They were picking me up and we were going out to the desert and on the Mexican border. In Arizona, and we're gonna meet. Like, so we're driving down. We're driving into the desert, and there's cacti everywhere, and there's a crew out there, and that's where the meeting point is. That's where they're gonna come pick me up covertly, and then bring me in because there's only like two people that knew that I was going to be undercover, that I wasn't a real inmate, so it had to be realistic. So they pick me up out there, and of course they have to crank shackles on me like really tight because you can't leave any sort of like, once I get back to the prison and I get into the trap and, and I'm going in there for processing that I can't, that, they're going to question him if my cuffs are loose, it's protocol. So just sitting in the back of that stupid SUV for like an hour till I got to the jail. I'm already saying, what the F did I just do? Oh, and I failed to mention, the night before I'm getting ready to go in, my twins are calling me that their van broke down, their accessible van. So I'm just like even more panicking. And my wife's like, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. But I'm like already like messing with my head. It's already messing with me. So finally I go in and they process me and they treat me like shit. What I mean? They treat, here I am, an ex-prison guy. I used to do intakes. I know how it works. It's a little different in Arizona in gangland. And strip search me, the whole 9 yards, bend over and cough. How humiliating.
Yeah.
Process me. And then, and I had an alias. My name was Troy Stevens, and I had a backstory. Like I was picked up on someone. I was at a golf tournament. I was picked up on some kind of a warrant or something. And I was going to jail because I was waiting to be shipped back to Massachusetts or whatever the case may be. My crime, I beat the guy up pretty badly, apparently. Troy beat him up pretty badly. I gave my kid Troy, a plug by using his name, Troy Stevens. So then they send me into like a holding cell. All right. So, and there's cameras in there, but the people in the jail, including the staff, thinks they're filming a documentary and they're for something else. They don't know it's 60 days in, And I'm in there for like 10 hours. And we're talking like a 4x2 room, like tiny. You know, they slid me, I think, two. I was in there long enough where I had like 3 bologna sandwiches or something. It wasn't even Oscar Mayer. Like
Jesus.
it was some gross stuff. Yeah. And then they slide in another guy who's like drugged out. He must have been DTing. You know what that is, right? Obviously.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and he was like puking, and then takes a shit in front of me, excuse my language, because it's a little, and I'm thinking, so then my head starts talking to me, John. I'm like, what am I doing? Get me out of here. Like, seriously?
I'd want to be out of there too.
Why did I do this for my charity? Like, why? Everything's unraveling at home. And I started to go cuckoo. And finally at like 10, I don't know, it might have been like 8 o'clock at night. So I went in real early in the morning. They called me, got my, I got my stuff from my room, like my clothing and my blanket and all that. I even think they strip searched me again. I don't know why, because I don't know what kind of compter man I would have had from the time they strip searched me for the first time. Maybe they just did it to humiliate me even more. Then I walk into the huge dorm room, and the leader of the white gang or clique comes up to me. It's all separated: the blacks, the whites, and the Latinos. Comes up to me and he's like, "Give me your papers." So, and I have my papers in there that says what I'm in for. So he wanted to make sure I wasn't a diddler. Well, for those that don't know, a pedophile, a sexual crime, and and he's feeling me out, and he welcomed me into the unit. I think it had like 10 bunks in the cell or something. And then I got the top bunk, and I'm sleeping on metal. Like, it wasn't even a mattress. It was like a saltine cracker. Are you kidding me? Right next to the toilet, matter. So I knew I had bad real estate.
Yeah, crazy.
So the whole time, John, I could tap out and leave. So I ended up. I know we got to go in a sec. So I ended up finally. I didn't sleep all night. 8 in the morning or 6 in the morning, they drop breakfast through. Everyone gets up, gets their breakfast, puts it on the end of the bed, and goes back to sleep. I'm like a puppy, like, come on, guys, let's stay up. Like, I needed interaction. I was going crazy, until they opened the actual door to go out into the common area.
Yeah.
Finally, I'm like, I lost it. I tapped my shoulder. I'm like, I'm out of here. They call me like 3 hours later. They walk me down a couple of hallways. I go into like an old cell unit, and the producers are there, and the sheriff's there. Like, what are you doing? What's going on? Why are you leaving? And my wife on the phone. What are you doing? Tell him to stay. I'm like, then the sheriff, and I was considering it. Then the sheriff walks up to me, and he's like, I know, your sons would be disappointed in you. I know what's going on in your backstory. At that point, I clenched my fist. I was ready to knock the sheriff out. Like, I came this close from wanting to deck him.
That's not good. Yeah.
And if I did, then I would have ended up in there for real.
You would have been there.
Yeah, right. So I came this close from decking him, and I'm like, hopefully, when is this going to end up on the show? They were pissed. I ended up leaving. It was a debacle. I ended up putting. I talked about it in my documentary. It ended up becoming part of my story, but and I said to myself, this isn't what a father's fight's about. Father's fight's about being home and being there for my kids. It's not going undercover in a prison to raise awareness for my kids. My wife's like, next time we could just do a golf tournament.
Yeah, it sounded to be a bit much to me, man. I don't think I'd want to go to the 40 days, Mark. Not after work, and you were in there before I was in there. I don't want to go back there to be in there,
One night in jail, John, and I melted. All right. One night in jail.
God forbid. Can you imagine if we ever had to go to prison for like 2 years or something? Like, I mean, there were guys in the prison when I started in 82 and I left. They were still there, some of these guys. They're still 30-some years. They're still there.
And they say if you work 20 years, so how many years did you do before you retired?
36.
So you probably did like a 12-year bid yourself. If you added the time up, probably did,
overtime and everything.
right. You probably did a 12-year sentence.
Probably, right?
You know, and that's what they say, like a 20-year sentence, 20 years in the prison as a guard is like doing like an 8-year bid or something. But
Yeah.
you know what? It wasn't, it was a silly thing to do. My wife's like, seriously, you're coming home. I think my wife was like, he's gone for a month.
She was happy. He take a break.
So, but yeah, if you want to see about that stuff, everything's on wheelchairstrong.com. There's links to everything on my website, wheelchairstrong.com.
So wheelchairstrong.com, and there's links to all the father's journey.
Or you can just go to markchauppetta.online. That's actually my media site that has all the stuff that I do. And
markchauppetta.com.
markchauppetta.online.
.online.
Yeah, that's my website with that has some media stuff on there and interviews and things that I do aside from my charity. And
now people want to donate to the Wheelchair Strong Foundation.
Right on the website,
Right on the
wheelchairstrong.com. And yeah, we got another movie coming out in about a month called Power. I wrote, directed that. That's about power soccer. Everything that I do, I get involved in from the production end. You know, I produce, I help edit, and you know, it's just in all seriousness, it keeps my mind as a parent of children that have a serious illness. It keeps me sharp as well. If I, you know, I feel like I have to move 1,000 miles an hour, because if I don't, my worst time of the day is at night when I got to go to bed. My wife's like, you know, you don't sleep, and you know, because you know, I just
your mind is going.
Yeah, the mind's going. So I try to channel that energy into, you know, if it's not my agency as a detective, it's charity. My martial arts that I continue to do, I train 2 days a week. You asked me that question and I did like a 30-minute story on something else. See how I had like ADHD or something. I don't know, ADD, whatever you call it. I don't know.
I got it too.
I'm a soon to be a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. So that's my goal. Is to have my goal is to have my black belt by the time I'm 60. So I'm
Nice.
still practicing the sport 3 days a week at a pretty high level. And I call it my martial arts training is my Prozac. Instead of actually getting a prescription and putting myself on something, I use the arts to help balance me and you know, sweat away any visible tears that you might see from the stuff I have in my life, you know. So it's how I cope. People cope different ways. It's how I do it. So
I'll tell you, Mark, I mean, I'm getting to know you. To me, you're an amazing guy, because I mean, you got so much going on and helping your sons and the Wheelchair Strong Foundation and putting stuff together to benefit that, and the PI business and your family. You're an amazing guy. You got a lot on your plate, but you seem to handle it.
Juggle. I text my daughter last week, and I texted her. She's married, and I'm on top of all my kids, you know, and text her pretty much. If I don't hear from her in a couple of days, I'm texting her. And I don't know if you get this. It drives me crazy when I text my children, and you know, I like to call and actually hear their voice, but sometimes you fall into that trap of texting.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than like when I text my daughter, I'm like, how's things going? And she's like, great, Dad. And she asks me a question. Then I ask her a question and she doesn't answer for another day. It's like where the hell did you go? Like, do these 20-something-year-old kids disappear when you're texting them? So, you know, so.
Oh, yeah, they disappear.
It's like I've officially become old. You know?
Oh, yeah. I check in with my daughter every day. My son lives in Mexico City. I check in with him every day. I mean, he's 30. She's going to be 28. I still check in with them all the time.
Yeah, right. Even, you know, and then occasionally, occasionally I'll give him a little static for not checking in with me. I'm like, yeah, I'm still alive. You know, yeah, I was sick last week with the COVID vaccine. You didn't bring me any soup. Sorry, Daddy.
Crazy.
You know, I mean, it is what it is. We raise them so we can set them loose. But you know, my kids are.
You're always going to be worried about them, no matter what. All your kids. That's just the
Yep.
way it is. So that's how I am. I don't know if it's being a parent or because I'm Italian or what. I don't know if it's part of the Italian and being a parent, but the combination is even worse, I think.
So we have the same problem because do you feel like the older you get, the more Italian you become?
Well, actually, my mother was Irish and Polish. My father, I'm like half Italian, but the Italian took me over.
I'm
Everybody
the
thinks
same
I'm all
way.
Italian. Yeah.
I'm the same way. My mother was 100% Italian, then the other side was French and Scottish. So I'm 50%, but I like to think I'm more Italian. And
Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah.
my wife and I's favorite thing to do is in the summer is to hang out at Constantino's down in Federal Hill
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah, we'll
listen.
definitely have to get together when you're going to come up and things are better. I'll definitely come and hang out with you, Mark, because
I'd love to. We'll do it. We'll do a double date with the wives. We'll listen to some Sinatra performers down there. And
I got a great friend, Darlene Andre, goes by Lady D. She sings on the hill at Venda Ravioli, and so yeah, sometime will be great. Yeah, definitely.
I can feel the weight coming on right now. Well, awesome.
Anything else you want to say, Mark? Before
No,
we wrap up?
I don't want to bore people. It's been over an hour.
You've been
so.
awesome. You've been awesome, man. Great guest.
Sorry I didn't let you get a word in edgewise.
Nah, this is about you. I wanted to delve into what's going on with you and the Wheelchair Strong Foundation and the movies and the Comedy for a Cause 5 and
We'll
how
get
you're
you on the
raising
next. If
money.
we do comedy again, we're gonna get you on the next show, and maybe I'm itching to do something in an arena again. You know, maybe in a year we can people will start feeling comfortable with being out in that type of a setting. So
Yeah,
let's
definitely.
keep our fingers crossed. You know, you're a good
It's
guy.
gonna
You're
get
a great
better.
comic.
Yeah, it's gonna get better, Mark. No doubt. Yeah. Well,
Awesome.
hey, thanks for coming on, Mark. I wish you the best. You've been an awesome guest, and I wish you the best with your whole family, your sons, especially Andrew and Troy. And I want to get out to try that burger sometime. Maybe I'll meet you there sometime.
I'd love to.
I'll
Maybe I'll even try it with you. We'll split it. I'll have the I'll have the pickles on it. You can eat the burger.
You're crazy. All right, Mark. Hey, thanks for coming on, buddy.
You got it. Take care, everyone. Thank you.